You are live. Hello, people. I am live. Let's start this live with a sip of coffee, and there's a little fun in this coffee this morning. It's chocolate milk. Boom. Innovator, influencer in the mix. What is Adam drinking close to the microphone? Now, no one mailed in. We had 0 mail-in ballots yesterday or last week, but it's still a fun game if you're listening to the podcast. Yeah, a little chocolate milk. Oi, that's not in the rule book. Who's in charge here? Me, guilty. Get a new rule book. That's the great Ricky Gervais as David Brent in The Office, Slough, UK. Anyhow, it's already hot in this office because I'm being an idiot. I'm going to take this plaid flannel off. Go t-shirt mode. Good morning. One of my viewers and beloved friends said, you know, it just wouldn't be a live show without Adam doing tech support at the start. In all of these years, you haven't figured it out? And I said, how dare you, sir? And so what we're doing to start this episode off is I am not checking to see that the streams are healthy. I'm just talking about the fact that I'm not checking. So boom, that's how you do it, folks. I hope you all have had a good week. Mine's been fantastic. Has it been fantastic? My week's been crappy, actually, but I like that my first instinct was that it was fantastic. For those of you on video, you can possibly see my right eye is quite infected. On Tuesday morning, I woke up and I was like, oh, my right eye's a little itchy. And so, of course, I itched it some more because it felt good. And then throughout the day, I was like, oh, it feels a little tender. I went to play badminton. I came home like, oh, I've always been someone with bags under his eyes, but like I felt baggier than normal, more badgy. And then I went to bed and I could not sleep because my eye hurt a lot. And I was just tossing and turning and I woke up and I was like, holy crap. It looked like I'd been punched in the head. And it's been very painful. And I don't want to trigger warning. It's been goopy and gross. So I think it was not yesterday, but the night before I got onto the phone and called my doctor. They couldn't see me soon enough. I went to a walk-in clinic and they got me some antibiotics, which I am very grateful for. Western or modern or whatever you want to call it medicine, and it's starting to fight it off. But it's been an unpleasant thing, and it's one of those situations where when a part of your body you take for granted suddenly starts not working as good, and you're like, oh my God, I use this for everything. My eyes are always doing stuff. This sucks. So the week's been challenging that way. I've had to reschedule a few calls, but I'm glad that this has been taken care of. I'm glad that we're on top of it. And I'm off this weekend to spend a weekend away with my friends from law school. So that'll be kind of cool too. And I've got chocolate milk in my coffee. Can you believe it? What an innovator. I should post this on LinkedIn. Yes, I know. I like to flame LinkedIn. It's fun. And it's a victimless crime, people. Okay. I work to create an empowered relationship with LinkedIn, but here with you, we're going to slam it. We're slamming LinkedIn. Let's get into, okay, so what am I going to talk about today? Today, what I want to talk about is on this early edition of the live show, I want to talk about the retreat that I'm running. This is not going to be about a sales pitch to you. I'm not, if you're checking this out, this isn't a video to get you to the retreat. Instead, I am going to distinguish my process as I go, as I'm in the process of launching this retreat with Bay, inviting people to come join us, trying to sell tickets, all of that stuff. So I'm going to share how that's going, what's the process, and then in distinguishing that, we're going to look at the sales process in general, because I think a lot of coaches and salespeople and frankly leaders can really benefit from understanding that with a little more altitude or a little more depth. And then we're going to talk about how that relates to the process of creating more possibility in our lives and the basic human condition, which is to shut out possibility. That's the intention. Let's see if we can keep the car on the road for the next 60 minutes. We might veer right off right away. Before we've already veered off. Before we do that, when I talk about like sales processes or selling benefiting leaders, here's what I mean by that. As a leader, you are continually responsible to enroll people in your vision of leadership. meaning you continually have to support your people to see what's possible for them, if they say yes into the leadership you're holding out for them. Most leaders suck at this. Most leaders operate from a place of entitlement. It's innocent entitlement. They're not aware that that's what's going on, but it's entitlement. And they think things like, you know, these bozos aren't willing to just say yes, I'm paying them, they should just do it. And we've all had bosses like that. And frankly, probably most of us, I certainly have been bosses like that. And it's because we don't understand the basics of enrollment and the way humans are with possibility. So you as a leader, you're on the hook. If you actually want to help people create something that is beyond the scope of what's already possible for them, you have to ongoingly enroll them in that possibility. And that is effectively sales. Can you guys hear that? There's a whole bunch of Canadian geese flying right overhead here. It's kind of cool. That's nice. It's like a little white noise to help you go to sleep. Those geese, what they're doing right now, you can hear that honking. They're identifying a nice house with a nice yard to shit 5 metric tons of goose poo on. That's what Canadian geese do. That's the Canadian goose way. Okay, so let's kick it. By the way, I said I was going to say this isn't about selling you the retreat, but if you're curious about the retreat, if you want to learn about it, the details are here on this little header, evergrowthcoaching.com/the-retreat. Y'all should check it out. So really quickly, the background on the retreat is that for the last 8 years, I think 7 or 8 years, we have taken, I'm going to leave this banner up for a little bit. We have taken the group we run, the Forge, the annual group, on a retreat midway through the program. And we pay for that retreat in its entirety for them. They join our program. Part of what gets included is a week-long, actually now it's 10 days in Costa Rica with us. We do a bunch of work with them, pay for all their food, pay for all their room and board. That's an insane value. And it's expensive. But we really wanted to create something like that. We wanted to create a program where that was possible. And so that's what we do. We have a vision for like expanding that and for bringing more people into the work and all of that sort of stuff. And so when Bay and I went away this year, which we do every year to plan like what's the next year going to look like, what do we see as the angle to take to grow business, all of that sort of stuff. One of the places we saw there was an opportunity in our minds was the retreat. Invite people to come join us for the retreat, open it up, let more people take part in that magic. And so that's what we're up to. And the vision we have, our vision, one is that it's amazing to spend time isolated, like in a container, over the course of many days. We run the intensive, which is really cool. But what happens at the intensive is people aren't staying on the same property. We're in a hotel where there's all sorts of different energy. So we get to be together for the fullness of a day, which is great because we can work with a lot of energy. But then evening comes and you're going to go off and do your own thing. And you're going to get on your computer, you're going to do your email, you're going to pick up your phone, all that, and then you're going to come back in the morning. So it sort of dips. The energy dips in between these days that we have at the intensive. At the retreat, we're with each other the full time, and there's no one else on the property. It's amazing. And so we can really do some pretty potent transformational work. We can really move some energy for you and for us. And so we want to open that up to the public. We want to allow more people to come and join that. And we want more people to be a part of the community. And this is a great way to do that. Second part of our vision is we have this amazing place that we really love. The people there are incredible. They've served us time and again. They really meet us where we need, and we're able to rent the entire property. But we would like to upgrade to an even more luxurious place. And in order to do so and still be able to cover the cost for the members of the Forge, we have to be able to sell tickets to the public so that we can scale effectively, right? That's what we're trying to do, scale out so that we can run a retreat at a nicer, bigger place. If you're one of the couple people watching, just give me a hey, how you doing, Adam? Hey, how's it going from over here, Adam? That'd be really lovely. Hey, Adam, how are you doing there, you bugger? That's my sort of Irish accent. I didn't drop the C note. I didn't say the C word, but I notice Irish people like to say that quite a lot. Anyhow, say hi so I know who you are and I can say hi back. So that's the vision we have. open this work to more people, allow more people to get the magic of being in person with us, let us get more of the magic of them being in person with us, hang out, have a ton of fun, and broaden the horizons so that we can start to do this at a more luxurious place. So that's our vision. And the goal for this year was, okay, let's open this up. We've got this much, like we could kind of accommodate this many people and no more. And so where we came down on with that was seven seats. We have 7 seats that we can sell. So our process with this required a few things. First thing we have to do is let everyone in the Forge know, hey, this retreat is going to be different this year. We have to enroll them in that possibility. Now, what a lot of leaders will do, will say like, hey, fuck it, you paid for my program, this is what I'm offering you. It's a free retreat, get over it. And you can do that as a leader. We could approach it that way. But then what's happening is some people will be fine, right? Some people will be like, whatever, it's free retreat. What do I care? More people? Awesome. But other people are going to have a sticking point. And for those people for which just get over it isn't actually an option, me saying, just get over it, we're providing you this, you shouldn't have an issue. What's going to happen is they're going to say yes to this new dynamic, this new approach from a place of, I should not be upset about this. I should just get over this. And then what they're doing is they're quelling their own internal experience, which is the antithesis of our work. It's anathema and many other words that sound smart that I could use. So, and that is the exact opposite of the leadership that we're talking about, which is meeting people where they are and supporting them to come across the bridge to join us in our vision. So that's step 1 is, hey, what are you doing, Mike? Getting fuzzy. There we go. We fixed it. Step 1 is for us to share with them, like, here's the vision we have. Here's what we see is possible for all of you in the Forge to join us in this new format. And by the way, you're going to get 3 extra days. So how cool is that? That's the hardest, often the part stepped over the most is we don't realize our impact as a leader. We're like, whatever, I'm just changing things up. That shouldn't be an issue. Oh, comments. Oh, who do you got? We got Britta. Oh, hey, Britta. That's lovely to see you. It's been a bit. And hey, Casey, nice to see you. Cool. So step 1 is we got to enroll the members of the Forge in that possibility. Step 2, once we've done that and gotten everyone on board, now we got to start putting it out there, inviting people to this thing. We got to do some logistical stuff, but the logistical stuff is really, it's not a big deal. By the way, anyone that's watching, if you have questions about like how this relates to your own stuff, or you've got something showing up on your side of the table, you know, in a retreat you're running or whatever, please put them in the chat so that we can include them and have it be more of a dialogue. That's always very rich when we can do that. So the next step for me and for Bay, but I'm not going to talk about her part of this process, just mine, is now I've got to actually start selling people on this, so to speak. We have to get into conversation with people, invite them to this retreat, and support them to get to a yes. So I'm going to talk about all of that as well as me, how I'm showing up in that. The starting point for how I show up in all of this is the innocently entitled leader. The internal dialogue sounds somewhat like, I'm brilliant. Why don't these bozos just jump at me with money? They should just want to do what I'm offering. Why aren't they? Why should I have to invite them? That's where I start from. That's not my real start is like, I love people. I've got an open heart. I love connecting with people, blah, blah, blah. But then very quickly, there's layers of fear and childhood trauma and blah, 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 blah. All of that boring stuff we all have. When I say my starting point is like this innocent entitlement, it's more like, as soon as I start doing something that is new and edgy, like inviting people, trying to sell tickets into an event, blah, 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 it's scary. And from my fear, that's where I begin. People, you should just want to come. I shouldn't have to enroll you in this. So hopefully for all of us, but certainly for me, as soon as I get to this point and I recognize what's happening, they should just want to come along. What that does is it provides me a lot of grace when I'm supporting other people's leadership, because I can see like, wow, look how easy it is to fall into this entitlement. They should just come along. Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to make this effort? And it's easier to see why I have to make the effort when it's my event and I'm selling tickets than when you're a leader at an organization and you're enrolling people in the next business plan or the next vision for the organization, but it's actually the exact same thing. And so too is the response from our fear. They should just. So I've got to do work to see what's possible for me if these people came, and to envision for myself, like, what do I imagine would be possible for these people if they showed up? And then I have to actually act from that vision of the future that is not yet realized. I have to sort of like, am I committed to creating this new thing? It's not predictable that I'll sell to 7 people. And it's not impossible. It's just not predictable. The reason I say it's not predictable is because typically when we run an event, I'm reliable maybe to sell 2, 3, 4 tickets, something like that, not 7. This is a higher cost item. It's a $4,000 price tag as opposed to $1,500 for the intensive, or free for our public forge calls, that sort of stuff. And generally speaking, in this modern I'm going to call it post social media era that we live in, or post, we're in social media 2.0, really, right? 1.0 is like Facebook, MySpace, maybe. 2.0 is like Instagram and TikTok, and like influencer culture, the absolute takeover of capitalism and marketing into these social media places. In this era, people are not really reading a lot of long form content. We don't really have long lasting relationships with people through social media anymore. It's like the video, maybe I follow this person and maybe I sort of loosely connect with them, but it's all a very fast twitch. It's actually, frankly, kind of miraculous that there's 4 viewers showing up here. That's a lot, at least for me, in this modern era. So I can't just put out content like this and hope that that's going to grab if I want to sell those 7 seats. It's going to require something different from me. It's going to require that I actually make invitations to people, that I reach out to people. And that is it's vulnerable. I'm going to share why it's vulnerable. I don't think I needed to say that, but I'm going to do it anyhow. It's vulnerable because it exposes me to being hurt, in the sense that if I make an invitation to someone, now they can tell me no. And the hardest thing for me, I've been distinguishing this with my coach lately, is it's one thing if I witness you from like afar, like you're just some stranger at a grocery store and you're talking to your friend and I can overhear you saying like, I really wish that blah, 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 but it's Tuesday and I'm a Gemini and I'm not good at parallel parking, therefore I can't have that in my life. I can kind of dismiss that. But the more I move into intimacy, into relationship with someone, the harder it is for me to accept, to really live or come from a place that like our path is sacred and there's no other way people should be moving forward through their lives other than the one that they're on. What happens instead is that, if I make this invitation, it creates some intimacy. And then if you say no, I'm like, idiot. I get upset. It hurts me. My heart becomes exposed to that kind of hurt. It has nothing to do with the person being invited. It's more that I learned growing up that heartbreak hurts. I don't like it. And I created all these strategies to avoid having to expose myself to it or feel it, such as not inviting people to my party. Y'all should just come to my party. Y'all should just want to be at my party. Hey, Monica, nice to see you. So, and thank you, Monica. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. You saying no, I want to be clear. Monica saying she appreciated the invitation I make, and now I'm talking about how people are idiots for saying no, and she said no. I am sharing this transparently to be clear that I'm clear. This is my process. This is not about anyone. I know Monica knows this, but it's helpful for me to share that, and I think important for us to distinguish it. And so the work of leader, myself as leader, of any leader who's trying to enroll someone in something, what happens is we get enrolled and inspired by the possibility of someone coming on board. Then we bring that possibility to them. We say like, hey, there's something I see available. Would you like to have a conversation about that? Are you interested in talking about that? Do you want to look at this, et cetera, et cetera? Then it goes the way it goes. So if they say yes, cool, everything's going great. We're happy about that. But oftentimes people say no and they'll explain why. And What that does is a couple things. One, it means I have to be with the rejection and all of what I make the rejection mean. Factually, all that happened was someone said no. Someone who wasn't already a yes continued to not be a yes. That's the facts of the matter. Everything else is interpretation I pile on top of it. Knowing that doesn't help. Knowing it is relevant because I still make it meaningful. It still hits me in my heart. My heart is not, I can't fix and heal my heart from my rationalization. So I have to be able to feel, I have to be able to metabolize that hurt and let it like, okay, oh, I'm making some interpretation, blah, blah, blah. And then what happens for all of us and myself especially is I make it mean that possibility I saw for this retreat, for these 7 people, and for that long-term vision is impossible. It's not going to happen. And I become unenrolled in the vision, just like as a leader, your people will become unenrolled in your vision. As we come up against setbacks, as we bump into challenges, we become unenrolled in our possibility. And so this is the second more challenging place for leaders when it comes to working with possibility, which is that we are responsible, or I should say we must be responsible for continually re-enrolling ourselves. So I make these invitations, people say no, or people say, yeah, I'm totally on board for this. And then like, I don't hear from them, and then I don't hear from them. And then it's like, oh, sorry, I thought I responded. It's a no, they just be humans. They do all of this stuff. And then I create the meaning that there's proof that this isn't going to work. I'm not going to be able to do this. And so then from that place, I've got to sort of like meet myself in my broken heart, not to make it sound too dramatic, but like, the heartbreak of, I really wanted to see that person there. I got to meet myself in that and feel it. And then re-enroll myself in the possibility of my vision, come back to my vision. My experience is very few leaders do that kind of work, which is why I'm so awesome. Not really the point here, not what I'm trying to say, just thought that was funny. So I said it. Most of us don't do that work because we fall out of our vision and then we're like, you know what? It's not such a big deal if, or I don't really care about this anyhow, or you know what? I'm really busy over here. So we fall out of possibility, and then that has us turn back towards life, the results that are predictably available, the results we can achieve if we just manage our life as it already exists and make it happen. And so this teaches us a little bit about our relationship to possibility. Anytime we're trying to create something outside of what is already predictably available. Hey, Liz, it's nice to see you. Well, Liz, you know what? Boom, you're awesome too. Liz is saying in a comment, I'd like to be just as awesome. And you know what? It turns out all you have to do is go live and tell people that you're awesome. Anytime we are exploring or leaning into possibility beyond what's already available, if we just predict and manage our lives, we are going to go through this path where we get excited, we see something, we're like, yes, and then it doesn't go the way we want it to, and then we turn back towards life as normal. And so this process that I'm describing is there for us as leader, and it's there for the people that we are seeking to lead. Clients, prospects, people at your organization that are your direct reports that you're trying to help along and have them enroll in this new possibility you see for the company, the boss above you that you're trying to enroll in this new possibility that you see if you got this promotion. So we're always managing this kind of duality where there's my energy and then there's the energy of the people below and or above, as the case may be. And so what's happening with the retreat for people is the same thing that's happening for me, meaning I make this invitation. Some people are just clearly in. Whoa. Oh, hold on. There we go. I meant to do that. That was on purpose. I just thought crikey. You'd think that this bonehead would get a new cable for his microphone, but nope. It's just going to get some more duct tape and let my dogs fight outside my door. Okay. Where were we? Yes, the process. So the way it works for people, some people are just going to be a no, and that's totally okay. You know, if I'm like, hey, there's this possibility I see is available, I think you'd really like to explore it? Are you interested? And they're just like, no, it's really important for me that I stay home. Those dates don't work. No. Great. So those people are just a clear no. That's awesome. There are some people that are just going to be like a yes. You know, when we first announced this, someone was like, boom, I'm in. And then she paid the deposit straight away. Incredible. Love those. That's what we would love to see whenever we're trying to sell something. You know, most coaches that I'm supporting in building a thriving practice, their frustration is that they don't seem to be meeting people that are just like, yes, here's the giant check I have written to hand to you. Let us do it. I'm ready to take on my life. That's the fantasy. If only we could find the right clients. You know, coaches will start saying things like, I just need to find clients that are up to something bigger. You know what? This is not about the bigness of which your clients are pursuing in their lives. This is human nature. It's lovely when we get those people that are willing to commit straight out of the gate, but they are the minority. They're very rare. So instead, what happens is more people in the middle place, which is they're excited by the possibility. They're like, ooh, I might want, that sounds actually kind of cool. And then what's going to happen, so they got inspired by possibility. Then what's going to happen is they're going to be confronted by the cost. The cost is not, I don't use that word to mean exclusively a financial cost. The cost is whatever will be required energetically from them to make this happen. So it might be that they have to figure out plans for their children while they're gone. It might be that they have to have a conversation with their husband to say, or their wife, or their non-gendered partner, or their dog, to say, hey, I really want to do this thing. And that might be energetically taxing for them because they've spent their whole lives not standing for themselves and not asking for whatever they want. It might literally be the financial cost. It might be that they have all the money in the world, but to spend this money means that they're spending their money on something that doesn't fit inside the context around what's wise to do with money that they were raised with, and therefore there's a cost that way. No matter what, whenever we're leaning into new possibility, there's almost always a cost associated with it. We as humans would love that this was not the case, which is why we're like, oh, if only I can take Ozempic and then I will lose weight, right? There's sort of a, I'm not saying I'm not applying this blanket to people that take Ozempic, but I want to distinguish that there is a way of being that exists in our society for which we want something without much of a cost. We want the results of transformation without having to pay the cost that is associated with it, which is why we're looking for hacks. You know, like here's a really simple example. People are using AI to coach themselves. Oh my God. That's about a 10-part, not mini series for me to do live about that. So we're not going to go down that rabbit hole too much, but here's the thing. Coaching is costly. Never mind the cost of money. Never mind the cost of what you have to do if you really want to change your life. Never mind the cost of setting aside the time. There is an energetic cost in terms of what's vulnerable for you to just share with another human being and then have that human being reflect to you how that lands. There is a cost with that. And we don't like paying that cost, which is why most of us these days live in a culture where we only text message people. It's hard to pick up the phone and call someone for a lot of us. It's edgy. That's costly. It's more vulnerable. It feels more intimate. Intimacy is a cost. We live in a culture where people don't ask one another out. Dating is a mess. We all use apps instead of approaching someone and saying, hey, you're beautiful. Would you be interested in going for coffee with this super handsome hooker right here? We don't say stuff like that, probably with good reason, but we're not willing to pay that cost. And the AI coaching thing, it alleviates people of the cost that is associated with coaching. And it is the cost which creates the energetic exchange, which allows for that transformation to happen. I got a dog nose, but can you see it? There's a dog nose right there. It's like, all right, if you're going to block me out of the room, I'm going to put half of my schnoz in there. What a boner. Okay, so anyhow, we approach possibility, we see what's available for us, we get excited, and then we get confronted by the cost. And what happens when we get confronted by the cost is we slowly find a reason to not pay that cost. Our vision, it's like if you see a pot of gold and then you see a wall in front of it and you're like, ooh, and you start to walk towards the pot of gold. as time goes on and you continue to walk forward, the wall takes up more and more and more of your vision until you're standing in front of the wall and there's only one thing you can see, the wall. And a wall looks at its highest when you are standing at its base. And you look up and you're like, oh my God, that wall's high. It's going to be hard work to climb it. It's going to be scary. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. And all we can see at that point is the cost. The pot of gold on the other side of the wall has long since been forgotten. And this is what happens with our relationship with possibility is we get confronted by this. We can only see the cost and then we delay. We don't like paying a cost. So we delay paying the cost. We put it off. Maybe I'll tell Adam later, blah, 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 blah. And then eventually what happens is with enough delay or enough argument in ourselves about the cost, we eventually find our way back to life as normal, to our default. So this is our process. This is the process that every human being walks through with possibility. And this is my process too, right? Like as I step through this, every step of the way, I get confronted by the cost and I want to go back to the default. And there's this interesting place I find myself in right now, which is, so we've sold 2 of our 7 seats, meaning we have 5 left. And we're Friday, November 21st. So we have precisely 2 months and 4 days. And so what's going on inside for me is a couple of things. On the one hand, I'm reminding myself that it's okay however it turns out. You know, if we sold 0 tickets, okay, no worries, not a big deal. If we sell only 2 tickets, no worries, not a big deal. We're still going to have a bunch of people come together. It's going to be amazing, and those 2 people's lives are going to transform. So on the one hand, that's really beautiful because it allows me to free myself to attachment. It means that I can let go of like a bunch of significance about like, if I don't sell this event out, I suck as a human being. I'll never thrive ever again as a coach. I hit my peak 2 years ago and it's all downhill from here. And soon I'll work as a insert job that is low paying and low prestige. I didn't want to name a job. I don't want to call any bad jobs out, but urinal mint replacer, not a janitor. Just all my job would be replacing urinal mints. I think that would be fairly low on the list. So by separating or unattaching from the outcome, I can alleviate a bit of the anxiety that is right in reach for me when I notice as dates wind down, as I am in more and more conversation, as more people say, thank you so much, but no thank you, or definitely next time. It's always definitely next time, et cetera, et cetera. There's that. On the other hand, the temptation of that, or the way the ego will co-opt that, is it'll say, and therefore take it easy, dude. Don't worry about it. And the sweet spot for creating possibility in your life is actually it's a transcendent merging of 2 things. So I've just described one, which is unattached. Don't worry about it, man. If it happens, it happens, right? This is how most of us try to approach creating a new goal, which is a little bit like flipping a penny into a fountain and making a really lovely wish and hoping that, hey, I made that wish. Hopefully it comes to me, but we'll see. No bigs. Not something anyone can really rely on you for. Hey, Adam, what are you going to create by this time next year? But hopefully I'll have 12 new clients, but we'll see. Okay, well, I'm not going to put a bet on that horse. You know, who knows if that guy's going to create anything. So there's not a lot of like, it's chill, you know, it's chill, but we can't rely on a leader that shows up that way. The other pole that people and myself can get stuck in is attachment. I have to make these sales. If I don't sell these seats, I am not even a human. I'm a garbage bag filled with mayonnaise, which I enjoy as an image. And it's disgusting because I hate mayo. So that's the place a lot of us come from. And then what happens is we become obsessive. There's no fun. We're hammering the pavement. We're reliable to make 58 calls a day, but none of those calls enriches us. None of those calls resources us. we feel exhausted, we resent everyone, everything, and most of all, ourselves and our vision. And even if we create it, we're like, ugh, this sucked. There's no freedom, there's no joy, there's no expansion or expression in it. It's not what we're looking for. That's not the thing we're aiming towards. So leaders tend to fluctuate between one of these two poles, attached to the outcome and taking a lot of action but burning themselves out, or the dude abides. Just chill, man, it's all good, but not really in any kind of committed action. And the work I have found is always to transcend and create the both end of these two. So, in recovery work, the way they'll describe this is they'll say, like, I am not responsible for the outcome. I am simply responsible for the actions I take. So I want to be in committed action. If I was absolutely committed to this result, what would I be doing? I would probably be setting aside time. This is a question I'm answering for myself in this moment, just to be clear. Like I'm looking, what would I be doing more if I was really committed to this result? One, I would be setting aside some time in my calendar because I've been doing this kind of off the side of my desk, but setting aside some time to reach out to people, to send them a message, to connect with them, to share what I'm up to. I would probably ask, hey, who do you know that might be a good fit for this? Is there anyone you could put me in touch with or mention this to? I'd love to know. So there'd be that. I would probably be bringing this to my coach as like a weekly check-in, like, hey, here's the status, just so that I've got a place that I'm bringing this time and again, as opposed to it again sort of being the way it sits right now is more like, if it's up for me when I start, when I sit down to plan out here's what I want to be coached on today, if it's up for me then I remember to do it, as opposed to having it be a regular thing, even if the regular thing is just like humming along great, I'm stoked, don't need to talk about it. So those are two things I could see if I was really coming from a place of like, if I'm committed to that result, what other action might there be to take? And then my work is to simultaneously let go of a story that I'm creating about what it means based on how many sales I make. If I have 2 people there or 7 people there, remind myself of the vision I have and the possibility that I see is available. And am I still committed to that? And can I come back to that? And can I release how it needs to look? Can I just remind myself of that vision, stay in committed action in service of it, but then release how the outcome has to be? This, for me, is hard work. It's hard work because I care a lot about this stuff. I've met a lot of people that have come from sales-based positions, marketing or sales, to coaching, like to try to start a career in coaching. And what they often find is that they are really good at selling other people's coaching, but they can't seem to create any clients themselves. And the reason for this is because selling someone else as a product or selling someone else's product is removed from you. There's a degree of separation. Whereas selling your own thing is really the edgiest because it's like the closest to home. The more you care about something, I'll give you like a really quick example that's kind of unrelated to the retreat, which is my relationship with dancing. I'm a dancer. I used to teach dance. And I got the incredible honor of training with the founders of Popping and Locking. So these are people that trained Michael Jackson, that founded whole styles of music called funk styles, really awesome styles of dance. I'm very passionate about it. But growing up, dance was this thing that the cool kids did, like the cool kids break danced. And I played Magic the Gathering in the library. And so dance became very precious to me. It became something super important to me, but I was afraid to put it into the world because what if you thought that what I was doing sucked? What if you thought that I was a loser? Or what if you're like, this guy's rhythm's off or whatever? Oh my God, you're now attacking the most sacred thing I could hold. And so the more the thing we're trying to create is like a deep expression of our soul, the harder it can be to continually show up and make offers and invites to people only to have them then say, no, thank you. And that's the journey of leader. That's why we have to continue to reach back into possibility and notice when we get taken out, notice when we've lost access to our possibility, notice when we're resigned to like, whatever, I've sold 2 tickets, that's enough, that's all it's going to be. So that's the journey that I've been on and continue to be on with regards to this retreat. And it's the journey I witness most coaches, most leaders are on in some area of their life, assuming they're up to something that matters for them. If you're selling Big Macs over the phone to people, if you're at a call center calling up and like trying to sell Big Macs, I guess, you're not going to probably have too much of this because you really could care less. Do you want a Big Mac? No, great, bye. I could care less. Then I have no attachment to it. Doesn't matter to me. So let me summarize this as it pertains to people and possibility, because I think that's really valuable. And then I think we'll wind down there unless any of our dear viewers have questions or comments that we can riff off. So if you've got something that's showing up for you, if you've got a question, if you've got something similar, I would love to hear about it in the chat, or in the comments, just so that I'd love to touch on that before we wind down. So anytime a client, a potential client, is thinking about saying yes to something that pertains to like a shift in their life, which could include like buying a new kind of car. It might be like, hey, I've always bought a used car, and this is the first time I'm considering buying a luxury vehicle, brand new off the lot. That may be a transformational shift. So it doesn't have to be that they're paying for a retreat or paying for your coaching. It's anything that's outside of the kind of dictate of how your life should be lived. If you were raised with the story like invest only in money because that is certain, or invest only in real estate or whatever, and you're considering an action that would have you invest money in yourself via coaching, or that would have you take on debt when your internal story is like never take on debt, that's a transformational shift. So anytime we're up to something for which the cost is going to run counter to the stories that we've created in life, it's probably going to be a transformational result. And the way that this works for people is they get the first thing that happens for most people is before we even consider what's possible for us, we ask what it's going to cost. Because if we can do that, we can forgo the excitement. We basically don't trust ourselves when it comes to possibility. It's a very effective tool to stay right where we are. So, like oftentimes people will come to me, maybe I'll get a referral for someone, or someone will reach out and be like, hey, I'd love to have a conversation about coaching with you, but before we go anywhere, I want to know what it costs. And it seems very reasonable from where they stand. But it's like, the metaphor I really like is it's like going up to someone, imagine this person has this business opportunity. And for this example, I'm going to invite you just to not get skeptical and tear it down, but instead hold it just as like truth, even though it's made up and fabricated. Imagine you go to this person and they're like, I've got this amazing opportunity. It could change your life. And you say, well, what does it cost? And they say $80. And you say, I'm not interested. Thanks. So that's how a lot of people approach coaching. It's how a lot of people approach everything in their lives. What's it cost? Okay, nothing to hear here. And there is a safety in that. They're not wrong. It's just valuable for us to distinguish that is a conversation that keeps us here in the status quo, because what will it cost me and can I afford that cost are questions that arise out of the status quo. They're not questions that arise out of a created possibility, a new vision of the future for yourself. Now imagine, we went to that person. What does it cost? $80. But imagine instead, a different person comes up and the guy's like, I've got an opportunity and I think it'll really change your life. And the person says, okay, let's hear about it. And he says, I've got an excess of $100 bills. Oh, all these $100 bills. And I'm trying to sell them. How many would you like? They're $80 each. That's a lot of possibility, right? And that person, the second person that's shown up, is going to have a different relationship to the cost because they're present to the possibility. Yes, I know that sounds like a scam. And if someone is selling you $100 bills for $80, you should probably not pay it. But anytime we are engaging in a conversation that creates new possibility in our life, there is some degree to this. The whole premise of coaching is that, of any transformational work, is that you are capable of more if you can break out of the existing rules. And we try to evaluate that possibility of what's more from inside the existing scope of our rules and our life. And so people get present to that possibility. If they're, a lot of people will just say no right out of the gate. What's it cost? No, great. I don't have to think about that. It alleviates them of the burden of seeing something greater in their lives, which is genuinely a burden. If you see the possibility of something greater in your life, now you have to like, fuck, I could be doing something more. Right? It's easier. It's easier if your life is just set in stone and it's not going to change, because then you can just keep doing things the way you're doing them. You don't have to feel guilty. You don't have to feel bad. Again, that is innocent and it is sacred. We don't want to make people wrong for that. It's just this is basic human conditioning. The next thing that happens is that people, reminder, we're exploring how possibility goes for people. We're attempting to summarize it, and we're doing a miserable job. It's taken a long time for this summary. Liz, I'm going to come to what you wrote in a sec. Thank you so much. And Britta, thank you. Britta just saying thank you. This was so helpful as always. Thanks, Britta. Really appreciate having you here. So people get present to possibility is the next thing that happens, and they get excited by it. And then they have to get present to the cost. And as they get present to the cost, it gets scarier and scarier. The work of any leader is to help people see and get exposed to what's possible, allow them to feel that present. Here's what I can see is available for me if I go down this road. Then help them start to face the brick wall and become frightened by it. Then allow them to have whatever experience is showing up as they confront that brick wall, which is going to be fear. And from fear, what we do is we retreat back to what we know. The work of the leader is to allow all of this. It is not to shortcut any of that. A lot of people as leaders, I don't know if you guys can hear it, there's a frog right out my window croaking. He's like, this is really helpful. I'm trying hard to enroll my fellow frogs in a new pond. That's frog voice. We'll come up with a name for that frog. He'll become a mascot for this show. We, as leaders, don't want to shortcut this process from people. We don't want to stop them. We don't want to trick them or manipulate them so they don't have to feel this way, because feeling this way is an essential part of the process. In fact, what we want them to do, what we want to support them to do, is to walk along this process and be alive to each step of it. We want them to understand this comes with the territory. We want to support them to walk through it with sobriety and with consciousness, because then they can actually make a choice as they walk through the process. And then once they get up to that no, our work becomes, would you like some support to not have your fear stop you? Or they might not even be aware it's fear. So it might be like, it sounds like you really want to do this, but there's some stuff in the way. Would you like some support to move that stuff out of the way? And that's the edgiest place. That's where a lot of coaches fall down, because they have not yet created the artistry in their own practice and lives to be able to stand in that place without becoming pushy. They're very afraid of pushing someone at that point. Instead of really, if you support someone to be fully conscious of everything up to this point, and you're being transparent and open, and then you are simply offering what you can provide them from here, there is no pushiness. There is no sneaky, slimy salesness. If I'm open and upfront with you, I'm not tricking you. You know, I'm not being manipulative. If I come up to you and I say, I've got a $5,000 car on my lot, but I want to sell it to you for $10,000. What are your thoughts? If I do that, I'm not manipulating you. I'm being open and transparent. And the reason so many coaches struggle with this is very ironic. It's because, and leaders, the reason coaches and leaders struggle with this is because they are actively protecting themselves from the same conversation. I would like to enroll you in a new version of leadership here at this company. Well, what are we going to have to do? What's it going to cost us? What's going to be in the way of that? And so because this leader is protecting themselves from the same conversation, they then can't stand for that with their people. So that's how we become, it's really funny, because you have a lot of sort of chicken and the egg in the coaching profession and the leadership world, where you have leaders actively trying to send down the line, transmit this energetic kind of helping people get inspired by possibility, but they're guarded and protected against it happening to them. And when we do that, it just never works. It never, ever, ever, ever works. We can create sort of like a shorthand facsimile of it. You know, I'm going to use a fancy word here, an ersatz version of it, where it sort of kind of looks like it. Sort of like if you have someone who's like really, really, really read a lot of books about riding a bike, they can tell you a lot about what you have to do to ride a bike, but they can never quite really help you actually learn to ride a bike because they haven't done that themselves. And so they're going to try to protect you from the same thing that they're actively protecting themselves from. So that's the process. That's what's going on for me. I'm going to just pop up the banner here so that we all know, boom, Evergrowth Retreat. And then I'm going to talk about Liz's awesome, what she's shared here. So again, evergrowthcoaching.com/the-retreat. If you want to learn more about it, you may not, but it's cool, I think, to see what I'm up to. And it's important to me that I share this part of the process because my experience is that by and large, people want to share their process after it's handled. You know, like it was really edgy for me and it was really hard work and I really felt crappy. But now I overcame it and I'm so glad I did. And I help people like you overcome the same thing. And believe me, I know exactly where you are. There was someone who wrote this, this post recently I was reading, and it was sort of like, there was this story, and the story was like, you know, it was really tough. And I got a piece of feedback that really landed hard for me. And I had to sit with it and I had to blah, 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 blah. And then I realized that I was avoiding it and then blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, but what was the feedback? Like, that's the nugget. Reveal to us what was challenging to receive. Give us that. We don't want to give that. We want to give you the story about our greatness and how we overcame something, but not the process. And so that's part of what is really important for me on this show, is always to like be showing the work so that we can all benefit from it. And so if you're listening to this or if you're watching this, I really want to invite you to be in that practice too. And it really is just a practice. It's not a knowing how to do it. This is a riding the bike kind of thing. Amazing leaders and coaches are willing to take swings. And so please share your process with people, because if you're willing to share where you're struggling, people will then see themselves in your struggles. If you're willing to be a work in progress as opposed to a completed, polished statue of leadership, then people can see their humanity in you. That's what really inspires us. Okay, so what are you saying here, Liz? Liz says, the pendulum of being attached to quote unquote dude, right? So attached over here, and then dude, it's all good, I'm chill, is interesting. I'm noticing a place where I feel an internal sense that I am to wait and not generate my own marketing for something I'm bringing into the world. Where's the place that we cross over into dude versus trusting in divine guidance? Long time attached generator here. Okay, let's have some coffee. That's such a great question. So let's show that comment there. Oh, ugh, you're cutting off my head. There we go. So thank you, Liz. This is a really, really great comment. I'm not going to keep showing that because can I make it? What happens if I click? Whoa, I made full screen. I didn't want to do that. I'm going to remove the comment because it feels now like I'm a floating head, but I love this comment. And thanks again, Liz. So Liz is sharing, if I'm understanding the question correctly, for a long time, she's created stuff from this place of attachment. I got to do stuff. I'm stuck. I'm, burning herself out, making things happen, but at the expense of herself. So it's helpful for us to distinguish that what happens when we have one pattern of being that is running itself bankrupt. For example, I'll use a different example and then we'll bring it back to this one. Let's say that I spent my whole life censoring myself. What will happen is we get to the point where we're like, never again. And then we go to the opposite end of the same box, basically. So if I spent my whole life censoring myself, I'm never going to censor myself. I'm a truth teller. Y'all hear me talk about truth tellers a lot. I go to this other side. And it's actually just, if you imagine a box that you're stuck in, it's the same box. It occurs different on the surface, but there isn't actually any difference. It's the same thing. So Liz is saying, okay, on the one side, I've been this attached generator here, but now I'm kind of wanting to wait and not generate my own marketing and sort of allow divine guidance to show up. So maybe going over to the dude. But I think Liz's question is like, but is that just the dude? Like, how do I know? And so what we're talking about actually secretly is the process of how a breakthrough unfolds, because I'm asserting that one or the other of whatever pattern we're talking about, censorship versus tell the truth, I don't care what people think about me, or super attached to making things happen to chill dude, the pendulum back and forth is actually not a breakthrough. The breakthrough is where we create this possibility where both of those things can kind of simultaneously exist, as opposed to being in tension and at odds with one another. But the way that happens is often, I'll call it clumsy. So if I spent a whole bunch of time in this attached state, I'm probably going to be pretty resistant to doing anything other than I just need to chill out and be the dude for a while. And what has to happen often for us to really break this all up, break this entire box up, is that we hang out in the dude for however long it takes, and we realize that's not getting me what I want either. So if I was the person who was continually attached and always making stuff happen and burning myself out, at first going to divine guidance, chilled out dude is going to feel like, oh my God, what a breakthrough. I can finally relax. It's going to feel really valuable. It's going to feel like it's got a lot of juice, and it probably does at first. And it is a shift. And so we got to hang out there for a while. But as time goes on, what we're going to find from divine guidance is that whilst it's nice to not be so attached, we are, to some extent, what we get to create in the world is at the effect of whatever shows up. So it's sort of like me floating, bobbing in a river, and like, hey, I want to build a houseboat. Hopefully enough stuff comes down towards me down the river and finds its way through the current to me that it's sufficient to build a houseboat. And maybe not. Maybe I build this weird janky houseboat that's got like a tire on it and like a car muffler as the door, because that's what floated to me. It's not what I really want, but it's divinely what came to me. And so down this path of the chilled out dude, what often happens is that people learn to diminish their desire, because their desire tends to lead them towards that attachment. And by diminishing their desire or shoehorning their desire into whatever they are being given in the moment, then they don't feel so bad. They don't feel the heartbreak of having desire and not having it realized. And often what happens when people learn to live in this state, in the coaching world, I often see this where someone has become a coach, their partner has a job that provides all the income that the couple need, or they're wealthy independently. They got an inheritance or whatever, their husband, wife, whoever, very wealthy. So the coach doesn't actually need to, there's no hunger. There's no need for the coach to do much. There's no driving force. What often happens is they hang out in the dude spot and then are left with this vague sense of guilt. And the conversation that they get caught in a lot is, I just need to figure out how to be okay with life being this easy. And that becomes the conversation they're in, as opposed to, what do I really want to create in my life? And what would I need to be doing if that was my commitment? So, your question, Liz, is really great. Where is the place that we cross over into dude versus trusting in divine guidance? And, of course, on some level, that's why we have coaches, right? Because left to our own devices, we're going to bounce back and forth between these two, because we can't see. It's like we're stuck in a wagon rut. We go forward for the first half of our life, and then we realize, I don't like this. And then we go backwards and we're like, new direction. Things are different. The scenery is changing because it's coming at me in a different direction, but you're still in the same wagon rut. And because we're in that wagon rut, we can't see up over the edges. So we can't see the possibility of something beyond that. And so the place I invite people to play is, instead of, do I need to be attached? Do I need to blah, blah, blah? Is instead, what is the thing? What is the possibility we want to create? Because that is a conversation that is not about attachment versus whatever. It's about, what do I want to make happen in the world? And as we start to go towards what we want to make happen in the world, that energetic cost we talked about is going to show up. And then when that shows up and our fear starts to rise, we can get supported in a conversation with a coach or a leader to help us get re-enrolled in that possibility and start to make that happen in our lives and bring that possibility into existence for us. Really, really awesome conversation. Thanks for bringing that, Liz. Really appreciate you. Okay, I've got to get off because I've got a call with a doctor coming in who's going to be like, dude, what'd you do to your eye? The working theory in this house is that my dog Pongo farted on my face when I was asleep. I don't know. It's a working theory. We're running it by a few of our composite sketch artists and stuff, and we'll see. Let's see. Some quick plugs. First, you should join our Forge Public calls. If you like this sort of conversation, but you'd like it to be a little more dialogical, a little back and forth, join the public call. evergrowthcoaching.com/the-forge-public-calls. We're getting a menu system set up soon, but if you go there once a month, we run a free call. We do a little bit of teaching, me, Bay, members of our leadership team, and then we do some support. You are not required to put your hand up for support. Sometimes just witnessing someone work through something live in the moment is transformational in and of itself. So you should definitely do that. Should check out the Transformational Leader podcast. If you like these live shows, they all go up to the podcast and you can listen audio. So that's adamquiney.com/podcast-2. Adam, why is it podcast-2? I don't know. Good at leadership and coaching, dumb at websites. That's why. You can also just search for the Transformational Leader Adam Quiney and you'll find that. And then I don't want to talk about the intensive. That's too far off. The retreat's coming up. If this inspired something in you, here's what my invitation would be. Reach out to me. Tell me you'd like to hear more about the retreat, and let's engage in a conversation where we support you to see the possibility, and then you notice the wall come up. The reason to do that is because it's going to give you a live, felt experience of what we're describing here. We can have that conversation with no strings attached. You can be like, look, I don't want to buy this. I don't want to go. Great. But I would like to be engaged in that conversation where we explore possibility and we start to distinguish how my fear works to create the wall as big, 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 big. At the end of that, we'll finish and I'll say goodbye and you'll say, but I really want to pay for this. And I'll say, screw you. You said no. And that'll be the end of the conversation. The reason to engage with that is it gives you an opportunity to actually be in your own process as we walk through it so you can start to see it. And that will make it easier for you to do the same for the people that you want to stand for. Okay. Love, love, love all of you. Thank you for being here. Fantastic, fantastic comments. Liz, Monica, Britta. Do we have anyone else? Casey, really nice to have you all here today. Have a fantastic weekend and we'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.